Jane, the Kurdish question will be a major issue in the elections at the weekend, and in a few moments we'll be crossing live to their heartland in the southeast of the country. But first, let's look at a much smaller ethnic group, the Armenians. They number just 60,000 nationwide, but they've attracted a lot of attention, particularly after the murder of the Armenian journalist Hrant Dink. Armenians were furious about his killing and angry that he was prosecuted several times during his career under a law known as Article 301. That law, passed in 2005, made it a crime to insult Turkishness. Since then, writers who claim Turkey committed genocide against Armenians in 1915 have been prosecuted. Turkey denies genocide, but admits hundreds of thousands of Armenians died, but only because of fierce fighting on the Eastern Front during the First World War. Well, today, tens of thousands of Armenians live in Istanbul with their own churches and schools. Nazanine Moshiri is there. Nazanine, tell us more about the city's Armenian community.
Yes, Stephen, you join me in Kun Kapar, which is the heartland for the Armenian community here in Istanbul. Many of them come to worship at this beautiful church, one of the oldest in Turkey. Mariam Anna dates back to the 16th century. This is also a community under threat from hardline nationalists, as the murder of Hrant Dink showed us. That's why there's protection here. The small police station offers 24-hour protection for the community and its symbols, including the church. Now, another legacy of that murder was the unification of the Armenians and also the Turks. Now, Hrant Dink was actually, his funeral was actually here at this church. It also brought the focus of the world onto this small community and its uncertain future.
Each Sunday, Istanbul's Armenians, young and old, gather to worship. Their religious rituals date back centuries. They're citizens of a modern Turkey, but their troubled past has prevented many from integrating fully. In 1915, hundreds of thousands of Armenians were killed by Ottoman Turks. Turkey won't recognise what happened then as genocide. Anybody who uses that word faces prosecution.
There is one big stumbling block before us. This is the term genocide, because when the Turkish people hear the term genocide, they automatically think of Nazis.
Hrant Dink, editor of the Armenian newspaper Argos, tried to change all of that. It made him a hate figure for hardline nationalists. In January, he was shot dead outside his offices. A teenager is now on trial for his murder. In the days that followed, we reported on the outpouring of grief that united Turks.
6 months on, and the memorial to Hrant Dink has now gone. The only visible difference here, a permanent guard for the newspaper offices and its staff. It's protection Hrant Dink never had, even though the authorities knew he'd received death threats.
Argos's new editor, Etienne Marchupian, was a close friend. In a rare interview, he told me why he thinks Hrant Dink was killed.
He touched one's heart, or he touched one's feelings. And people were embarrassed while they were listening to him, you know. And so this, I think, created an inferiority complex type thing in many people. So they don't want to see him, you know, in the press, in the TV, because every time they saw him, it reminded them of the past, that they don't want to remember, all the crimes that happened in this land, and so on and so forth.
Etienne will be voting for independent candidate Baskin Orhan, an academic turned politician. But rather surprisingly, at least a third of Turkey's 60,000 Armenians will support the Islamic AK Party.
This is the first elections maybe that the Armenians are not acting, voting as Armenians, quote unquote, but as citizens. You know, they are trying to give their votes to the one who is the best for Turkey as a whole.
Democracy is the best chance Armenians have of moving out of the shadows of Turkish society.